Elizabeth Chappell, a lifelong entrepreneur who finally found my niche. After years of new ideas and jumping from business to business, I figured out how to turn a craft into a successful career. In 2016, I started a monthly subscription box for quilters. That little startup has grown into a thriving, multiple six-figure business that I am so proud of. As a published author, designer of fabrics and patterns being sold throughout the world, my favorite thing to do is to teach others how to grow a career of their dreams. Each week, you'll hear from me or from other guests who are creative entrepreneurs, so you can learn exactly what to do and what not to do to grow a career that's more rewarding and successful than you ever thought possible. If you're ready to turn your craft into a career that you love, I am so excited you're here. Welcome to the Craft to Career podcast. Welcome back to the Craft to Career podcast, or welcome if this is your very first time listening to the podcast. Thank you so much for the person who left a review. There is a brand new review for the podcast. I see each and every one that comes in. And if you have not left a review, please take just a moment to do that. I know that there are thousands of listeners who download each episode. And there are just a couple of 274 to be exact right now, reviews. So if you're a listener and you've not left a review, please do so. It really is the lifeblood of this podcast. That is how the podcast continues to go. It's also motivation for me to continue to do podcast episodes. And for those of you who do check in weekly, you may have noticed that there's been a little lag in the podcasts that I've released recently, and I actually plan to address that in my next episode. I've been in a little bit of a funk, emotionally, psychologically. So not to get too deep, but I will be sharing that in my next podcast episode, just dealing with the depression. I don't mean to sound dramatic or anything, but as business owners, especially as entrepreneurs, it can be difficult sometimes. And so I will address that because I know I'm not alone. And I know there are different times and seasons of our businesses. So I will be discussing that in my next podcast episode that will come out next Friday. But I do really feel so thankful for each one of you who leaves a review. And I do want to show up for you. I want to provide that tangible, hands-on, practical business advice for those of you who are looking to grow your business or start a business. So with that, I am going to share a huge pivot in my business. This came as a shock even to me, but it's designing fabric, why I stopped designing fabric. And this may come as a shock to some of you. Some of you might not even know that this is kind of my first public announcement with this. But I had a podcast episode years ago when I first started designing fabric for art gallery fabrics. It was a dream of mine. It came true. I mean, for years, I worked on designing fabric for years. So, I started quilting, and then I saw, oh my gosh, there's this whole area of the industry where you can design your own fabric. My gosh, that's amazing. And so I really did strive for years. It was a dream of mine. It felt very elite and sexy, dare I say. I know that sounds weird, like designing fabric, but it felt that way. It felt so elusive and like, man, could I even, And so for this to have happened, for me to reach this part of my career where I was able to design fabric, and now for me to choose to not do it anymore is a huge change. And so, first of all, I love art gallery fabrics. I'm not switching to a different design house. They have been the most amazing company from the beginning, even before I designed fabric. They have been so like a family to me, literally. And they've had me come out and bring other quilterpreneurs out to their headquarters. They've come to my home. I love Pat and Walter Bravo and everyone on the team, and will continue to use art gallery fabrics and love their fabrics. So it has absolutely nothing to do with art gallery. If I were to go back, that's exactly who I would design for again. I love the quality of their fabric, everything, So love art gallery. It's not that. And I definitely don't regret this journey. I mean, a lesson that I've learned with this is that sometimes we think we want something and you just don't know until you dive in and do it and realize, oh, actually, nope, don't want to do this thing. So I don't regret at all the learning process, the reaching for my dreams, working so darn hard to get there. And I will have this fabric forever. I have 3 collections that came out: Gale Lorraine, Road to Round Top, Bedtime Stories. I love each one of them. I actually was working on a 4th collection. It was going to be like a London, England-based thing. And it's still the idea of it's so cool in my mind, but we'll dive into why I'm just not going to. And yeah, this fabric, I mean, it will live longer than me. And so I am very motivated now to create a really cool quilt using, I'd love to use all 3 of my collections together. I don't know that they necessarily go together, but you know what? I just want to like commemorate that part of my journey in my life. Like, it's a really cool thing that I'm very, very proud of. And I will be forever. I will be so proud and grateful that I had that opportunity. And a hard part of giving up fabric design was like, but so many people want to do this. And I was given this opportunity. Like, am I being ungrateful, if I give that up? And it just so many things. It took a long time for me to come to this conclusion. This was not an overnight thing, but anyhow, so let's dive in. Let's dive into why I am not doing this anymore. Why am I not designing fabric? So the first and foremost is the art aspect of designing fabric. I don't consider myself a great artist. And now you don't have to be, that could be a touchy subject for people, but let's be honest, you don't have to. I mean, especially if you're very like geometric, modern, whatever. But here's the thing. Creating art is not my passion. I don't love in my free time to sit, draw, paint. I tried. I really did try. Like, I bought all the things. I bought all the watercolor and the iPad Pro and sketch pads, but it felt like a job to me. It felt like, oh, I better sit down and do this. I don't want to spend my precious time on this earth doing something that feels like a job, especially when I have the luxury of not being able to do that, right? I mean, sometimes we just have to. Like, I have to clean the kitchen. I have to mop the floor, whatever. There are things I have to do that I don't really want to do. This is not one of them. I don't have to do it. And so why? Why do something that felt more like a chore or like, oh, right, another collection's coming up. I guess I better get started on that. And it felt like daunting a little bit. And I also I guess if I really, really loved it, I'd put in the time, but I never got to a place where I felt like I was drawing from my own creative ideas. I felt like I always had to look outside of me to get inspiration for my art. Whereas with quilting, I actually genuinely love sitting down and creating things with fabric, which who freaking knew? Like, I honestly, this wasn't until a couple of years ago that I started quilting. As a kid, I would have way more been like, oh yeah, I would way rather draw and be a surface pattern designer than a quilter. But here I am. No, it turns out I actually really love to come up with quilt pattern designs. That is fun for me. And I actually really love trying to figure out how to make the pattern more efficient, how to make it more concise, how to make it clearer and take up less pages so it can fit in. Those kinds of things oddly light me up. Who knew? But we all have our area of expertise. And it turns out that the creation of art, as in painting and drawing, that's not my thing. It's not my light me up type of a thing. Number 2 is the pay. So I am a business owner and I want to earn money with my business. We all have to bring in money, a way to live and pay the bills. And for me, this one, you get 5% of the sales, and that is industry standard when it comes to fabric design. So it's a lot of time that you put into the creation, especially for me. Maybe there's artists out there who are creating art all the time and putting together their collection is just easy peasy. But for me, it was not. It took a lot of time on my part. And then, the paycheck comes in and I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. I put in how many hours, not to mention like hiring people to make a cover quilt, hiring a photographer, just all the things that go into the lookbook and reaching out and finding people. It's a lot of time, a lot of work. And then to get that paycheck, I was like, as a business owner, doesn't make sense to me. And this is for me, like I know that there are fabric designers out there who sell more fabric than I do. And so they're earning more. So for them, that makes more sense, but also from like a business standpoint, I am a true entrepreneur at heart. I like to sit in the saddle and hold the reins. I don't want my sales to be in the hands of someone else's company. I just want to be the owner of my own business, and technically I could go to wherever, to source the fabric and print my own and sell my own. That's not the business model that I want to have. So anyhow, the pay just wasn't a great investment of my time for the money that I was earning. Number 3 is the marketing. So basically I was marketing for 2 different things. Let's just rewind to a year ago today, how many things I was marketing for. So, there's Quilters Candy, where I had my membership, the Quilters Candy membership. I had a business membership. I had my patterns. I had my fabric. I'm trying to think what else. Anyhow, four different things that I would try to be like sharing and selling. And it's exhausting. Like marketing takes a lot of energy to really market well, to really get the word out there and get people excited. It takes time and energy to think about how can I share this in a way that gets people excited. Now, keep in mind, I love marketing. It's a fun sort of, I don't mean to say game in a callous way of like, this is just a game for me, but it is in a way like how to think of strategy, okay, that didn't go super well. What could I do next? Or we got a 5% conversion here. How could I up it next time? And looking at the it's fun. It's really fun for me. But when you're marketing 5 different things, it's just too much. It was just too much. And so every time, a lookbook came out, good marketing for fabric, you want to be sharing stores that are selling your fabric. You want to, there's just so much work that goes into that, reaching out to different stores, making samples, asking, I really wanted to have a goal, and I did. I think I did for Road to Round Top. I wanted to really make a highlight for every single person who was in the lookbook and like do a reel. And I say that, I'm sure there's a few people that I missed, which anyhow, if they're listening, I'm sorry. I really wanted to, but that weighed heavily on me. Like these people are creating things for my lookbook that some of that went through Art Gallery where they chose them, but I felt a responsibility to share and promote, and it's just a lot. It's a lot of marketing. So I felt stretched very thin on marketing multiple things. So reason number 4, as a quilt pattern designer, there's an artistic freedom that comes with using any and all fabrics. So, I love Art Gallery. Like they're my go-to, my favorite. However, I also like other fabrics. And sometimes it felt limiting to have to only use my collection. My collections were smaller. So within Art Gallery, they have like their fabric designers, and then they have their, what is it even called? Oh my gosh. I was part of this. I can't even think of the name. That's ridiculous. Part of a little like section of AGF where I would only have 12 SKUs that came out with a collection. So if I wanted to make an entire quilt top with only my fabric, I only had 12 SKUs to choose from. And some of those I intentionally did like background, low volume. So the colors, there would only be like 3 colors or 4 colors. And that was limiting to me. I really love different designers, and like, I love Liberty fabrics. Those are just amazing. And so to not be able to use those felt stifling a little bit. And so I'm there's such a freedom that comes with like, oh my gosh, I can use any fabric in the world now. So that feels really exciting. And then number 6 is environmental. So I felt this with my subscription box as well. And again, no hate or shame. I'm not trying to like do anything like that, but I am trying to be more conscientious of my footprint on the world. And I mean, even every week as I bring my trash out to the corner, I'm appalled by how much waste I'm contributing to the world. So it started with my monthly subscription box. Ethically, I was like, oh my gosh, I am like giving people this mystery box that they may not even really love what's in it. And it's so much stuff. And then what do? They're going to end up probably throwing it away. And like, I ethically feel weird about this. And so with fabric, there's so much fabric in the world. And again, I feel bad. I don't want fabric companies to be like, how could you? But to be true to myself, like there is a little bit of like, I've gone to estate sales when people have died and there's closets of fabric, and we joke about always buying more fabric, and I get it. I do, like I buy fabric, but like, anyhow, so that's a side of it that like was a little difficult to reconcile with. So there's that. Number 6 is my personal lifestyle. So I've talked about this. I've really been focusing on less in my life. My oldest is about to graduate high school and go to college. And that's really put things into a sentimental, like, I want to be more present. I thought, I want to make dinners for my family. No, I still don't love doing that. We're still finding alternatives to that. But I do want to have time to go to my kids' games. We've got lots of kids in sports, divide and conquer, driving, being present, having time at night. I mean, I have been known to, and I'm the first to admit it, use my work as an escape when things get stressful. I can go and escape to work because many reasons, but I don't want to do that. Like I want to be present with my family. And there has been many years, especially at the beginning of my business where I was really busy, where the evenings, that's my creative time. And so I naturally want to go to my sewing room or go to the office. And that's when I have the energy. But what if I spent that time with my family and loved ones instead? So that's been very intentionally taking things off of my plate, both from an emotional and psychological perspective. As I've talked about before, I've gone through some burnout. And so I just really wanted to kind of simplify things, work smarter and not harder, and really focus on what brings me joy. What things in my business do I just absolutely love? Because when we focus on those things in our business, we're going to do better. We're going to excel. We're going to show up, and that shines everywhere. It trickles down into all the things that we do. And not just, there obviously are going to be things that we need to do in our business that we don't love. It's not like we just can't not do our taxes because we don't love it or whatever. But like, if we can eliminate things that don't light us up, why wouldn't we, And I've preached for years, like to narrow down, niche down, really focus, be known for one thing. Yet meanwhile, I was adding things to my own plate. And so finally to learn to walk the walk. And I know how scary it is because logically it's like, but if I sold this other thing, if I had this other revenue of income, I would earn more. It's just, I don't recommend it. And I actually have seen that it's not necessarily that you earn more. Like this year, I'm going to be earning pretty much, I think I need to look at all the numbers. So don't be, whatever. I may be wrong, but I should earn pretty similar to what I did last year. And my workload is so much less. The goal is not to work ourselves crazy to the ground. The goal is to live our lives. Work enhances our life. It's not that we live to work, it's the other way around. So I just really have been focusing on eliminating and really diving into the things that light me up. So now what? People are like, wait, hold on. You don't have your membership. You're not doing what on earth do you still have a business? Like, are you still doing anything? So what now? What's Elizabeth going to do now with Quilters Candy? I do plan to keep doing the podcast. That's a fun one for me. I like it. Granted, like I said at the beginning, I have taken a little bit of a hiatus, which I'll talk about next week in the podcast. But I will continue to do quilt patterns. Those are fun for me. And yeah, I'm exploring different things like more pictorial patterns. Anyhow, and that's one of those things where the reason I'm kind of like, do I share this? Do I not? Anyhow, because I teach very much like have a look, have a brand, have a style. And the things that I'm exploring right now go a little bit outside of my traditional look and vibe. But I'm also at a point in my business where I feel like I've grown enough that I can do that. Like if I was at the very, very beginning stages of my business and nobody knew me at all, they could be a little confused with like, wait, what? Why are you coming out with a pattern? I don't recommend that at the beginning. So we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. They may not sell well. They might sell well. I might be like, nope, that was a bad idea. You should really just stick with your look. Kind of like my business where I thought, oh, I really want to design fabric. Nope, that didn't go well. So we'll see. We'll see as I release different patterns that look a little different from the things I've done in the past, how that goes for me. And I'll report back and let you know. I'm also really enjoying the business model that I learned from my Instagram mentor who I had as a guest a little while back, Nicole Burke of Gardenary. So just the Instagram, like I have had fun with Instagram again recently. What I'll talk about next week, I've been in a little bit of a rut. So it's been not as enjoyable, but generally speaking, I enjoy coming up with some free things that I can offer my audience. And I'm really excited. I learned some things from Amy Smart, Diary of a Quilter, at the Sundance retreat for marketing and emails that I'm excited to implement in this next year. And so, like I said, the marketing, the business growth, it's fun for me. So I plan to keep showing up and offering some free things. But with that, I mean, the model is to have some freebies and then have an upsell where you can sell things after people opt in for the free thing. And so I really am excited to focus on what are some little things I could sell, like introduction to sewing. I mean, I have my 1/4-inch seam thing, but I would like to create more of those types of lessons and tutorials and those kinds of things. Like I really want to help people dive into quilting and sewing. And so anyhow, I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but I want to create more, I don't know, $5 to $15 offers where people can purchase a lesson or something like that. And then of course my patterns. I have my quilt patterns. And then Jennifer Long and so I do love my quilt pattern writing course. And I like teaching other people how to write quilt patterns. I really like teaching people how to grow a business, but that just feels very large. It's a large umbrella. I've gone down that path with the Craft to Career course, not just the podcast, but a course. And it's a big, big umbrella. And so I am reining in that and focusing on quilt pattern professionals. In fact, Jennifer Long and I are starting a membership. It's called Quilt Pattern Professionals. This will be open to everybody, anyone. It doesn't have to be alumni only, but we will be teaching elements of quilt pattern writing, like the business of quilt pattern writing, industry insights with quilt pattern design, techniques, style, the nuts and bolts of writing. We will be doing Adobe help. I have Maggie Reno, and she has been helping this year with the quilt pattern writing course and has been phenomenal and so helpful. And so she'll be joining in that membership, doing a monthly Q&A with Adobe Illustrator and InDesign questions and help. There will be a community aspect, business help in regards to quilt pattern writing, like how to market your quilt patterns, how to reach out, how to promote, how to submit, open up wholesale accounts, all of those kinds of things. For example, the first month, which will be December, just next month, is going to be quilt-alongs, how to write a pattern specifically for a quilt-along. And that looks different than just for not a quilt-along, and the etiquette and all of that goes into a quilt-along. And a sew-along, what's the difference between the two? And then how can you sell that pattern afterwards if it's not going to be a quilt-along? So that's going to be the first month. And then we just have so many content ideas to help you really become the best quilt pattern writer. So that's something that I'm very, very excited about. And I'm excited to be working with Jennifer because she has so much experience writing patterns. She's such a great quilt pattern writer. And it feels really great not to do this alone. A lot of entrepreneurship is a lonely thing. And so it's really exciting to have a teammate, if you will, who's like equally contributing to the ideas of what we will be sharing and producing. So that's exciting. And then I also am very interested in, this is daunting, but I'm interested in making the quilt pattern writing course evergreen, where it will be available at any time for anyone who wants to buy that. Now there won't be the live Q&As and all of the like personal touches. And I might still like offer that aspect once a year where I carve out that time to like show up and answer the questions. But for a lower price point, I would like to offer that course to anyone. Yeah, but that's going to be redoing the course, and that just makes me feel like, ugh. Anyhow, so that's something that's on my radar. So again, to recap, I have decided to not design fabric anymore for the reasons that I've shared here, but ultimately to really just focus on the things that light me up, the things that I feel like I'm truly good at and that I want to contribute to the world. I want to have less on my plate, and I want to focus on the few things that I am doing to make them really great. And I want it to be enjoyable, both for my customer and for myself. So yeah, it's very interesting. If you go back and listen to the podcast episode where I talk about becoming a fabric designer, it's very true. Like the joy, all of the things that go into it. And I'm so glad I had that first collection named after my mom. Like it will be something that I cherish forever. And I hope generations to come, that my posterity is like, how cool is this? My great grandma made fabric, I don't know why I made the voice sound like that, but anyhow, that they'll feel that way. But at least I have that. Even if in my imagination they feel that way, at least I get to imagine that. So that's a really cool thing to have. I'm very, very grateful to Art Gallery for having me as a designer, for accepting me, for allowing those creations to come to fruition, to come into the world, and to experience that so that I could know that as cool as that opportunity is for some, it is just not the path for me. And if there's one takeaway from this for you listeners, I want you to know that it's okay to pivot and to change. It's okay to dream for something and then do that thing and to realize it's not what you thought it was going to be. It doesn't mean it was a failure. It doesn't mean it was a waste of time. It means you learned, you grew, you reached for goals, and you accomplished them. That's life, right? Like we are here to learn and to grow and to figure ourselves out, to bring value to others, to love others. So none of that is a waste. It's all a part of the growth and the learning. And for those of you out there, I'm not discouraging fabric design. I mean, this is some people's dreams. This is the thing that really lights some people up. They love creating it. And it may pay really well for some people and it might not pay well for others. That may not be your reason if you want to do it. It might not even be about the pay. It could just be for whatever, there's so many reasons for people. So own your truth, own your dreams. They don't need to be anybody else's. In fact, they could be someone else's worst nightmare, but it's your dream. So really lean into what things you want to do, what is fun for you, and just go in and do it. And you may end up being like, yeah, for sure, I do love this, or you might not. But just do the thing, give it a try, do the best that you can. And if that opportunity doesn't open to you, like what if I had never been able to design fabric? That doesn't mean I throw in the towel or oh, woe is me. I mean, there are still things I want to do that may never come to be, but I'm not stopping reaching forward because X opportunity hasn't opened up for me. No, in fact, I feel like the more we move forward and just do things, then it makes those things that may not be an opportunity right now, it makes that more realistically a possibility down the road. Like someone will see, man, we wouldn't have paid attention a year ago or 10 years ago, but look at how they've grown and who they have become. Please, yes, we want you. So just keep working on the things that you love, keep dreaming, keep playing, and just keep reaching for those things that really light you up. So thank you again for being here as a listener on the Craft Your Career podcast. I will be back next week with a brand new episode talking about depression and business ownership. And I know it sounds like such a deep, heavy thing, but it's just sharing my realities of things that I've struggled with and how I have coped, how I've moved forward with it, what that has looked like for my business. And I know I've worked with enough entrepreneurs to know that I'm not alone in this. I mean, as a human, in the human condition, we have lots of ups and downs. And so I think it's really nice to hear sometimes what that looks like for other people, and just to even know that you're not alone. So again, thank you for being here. If you've not left a review yet, please take just a moment to do that. It means the world to other listeners and also to myself. So thank you again. We'll see you next Friday. Take care.